It's out now. Young Thug just released his new album, Business is Business. We made so many theories about this. I dropped a video yesterday going over the mystery behind this whole thing because we didn't even know if it was going to be an album. But he dropped it. It's out now. You can go listen to it. You probably already have. And today, I wanted to give my thoughts on this album. So let's move straight into this. If you want to stay up to date with all current hip-hop events and releases, make sure to subscribe and become part of this community. Oh, and also, go cop that fresh merch and listen to my new songs in the description. Real quick, if you don't want to listen to this, make sure to skip 10 seconds into the future, but you can now sign up for my free newsletter with the first link in the description. It comes every Sunday and details everything that's been going on in hip-hop over the past week, so make sure to do that. So we got Business is Business. After we've been making theories about what this could be, we got the QR code, we got the domain, the website businessisbusiness.biz with the countdown to last night, so 12 a.m. EST on Thursday night to Friday. And we didn't know if this was going to be an album. We got a couple of people retweeting this QR code and even Drake posting about it. So that's kind of like, we knew something was coming. We didn't know if it was going to be an album. And then only a couple of hours before the album dropped, unfortunately too late for me to make a video. I was asleep at that time, but he dropped the actual album cover, which is this right here. And this is hard as hell. Like, you can't lie. This album cover of him sitting right there in court, looking over his shoulder, that is hard. And we had the theory that this was going to be the album cover of his baby picture, but that never really came true. That was his profile picture changed like 2 days ago. And we had the theory of the album cover of the Slime Season 4 tease that he gave us over a year ago at this point. But that wasn't true, and we got that new album cover. He also gave us a track list already last night, only a couple of hours before the album dropped. You can see right here, we can see 15 tracks, but we're going to go over the tracks, you know, from top to bottom, kind of going over my favorites, what I think about the album in general. So let's break this down real quick. So we start out the whole album with a Drake song. Like basically the first 2 quarters of the song, it's Drake. And I can't lie, I don't like it. I don't like that Drake feature. It sounds so how Drake just sounds nowadays, so nasally, so corny in a sense, but it's all right. It's a kind of a ballsy move to start off your album, which is Drake taking over. And the funny thing is, Drake also posted on his Instagram about this thing, about this time Young Thug owing him, and I'll go into what that might mean at the end of it, because that's very, very interesting. But Drake on the first song called Parade on Cleveland, and then Young Thug comes in and actually does a pretty killer verse. Then we move on through 2 solo tracks. The first one, Money on the Dresser, is actually pretty cool. The beat is nasty, and Young Thug has, you know, that deep voice on there that I really love. I love to see that he's still experimenting around with some of the vocal stuff that he can do, because that's obviously what he's known for, maneuvering around the conventions that we have in hip-hop and just doing his own thing. The second of those solo tracks, Gucci Grocery Bag, I didn't like those. Sounded so basic, so generic. Didn't like that. The next track, Cars Bring Me Out with Future, that was pretty good. It was a solid track, kind of what you would expect. Also, the funny thing with, like, you know, I'm so rich, the cars bring me out. That's kind of funny to talk about, but it's kind of like a basic Thugger and Future track that you would expect. Then, though, on With the Racks, we have a very star-studded feature list. We have 21 Savage, Travis Scott, and Yeah Gotti, and they all perform really well, but especially Travis Scott stands out here. And I think that he did this purposefully so that people will get excited for Utopia. But Travis' verse is by far the highlight on this song. Then Uncle M was pretty good, even though I didn't like the hook on it. It sounds very foolish. I don't know, it just sounds corny. Abracadabra, another Travis feature, even though this time around not as good as the one on With the Racks. Then we have a couple of other tracks. Went Through It, I actually thought was a nice break in the momentum of the entire album, kind of taking out the pace a little bit from the tracks before. Oh You Went with Drake, it was alright. Still, the Drake features on this album don't really convince me, but I know that's what a lot of people will gravitate to because it's Drake. Then Want Me Dead with 21 Savage was pretty good, just as well as Hellcat Kenny with Lil Uzi Vert. Both of them performed really well on those tracks, and especially Want Me Dead had a really nice instrumental. All in all, I do want to add that Metro Boomin executive produced this album, and this is the Metro Thugger album that we were kind of waiting for. So it's just called Business is Business. So that's pretty important to add, because you can definitely hear all the influence of Metro Boomin's production on this thing. And then we get to Mad Dog, and Mad Dog is probably my favorite song on this album, which I really like because it's a solo Thugger song. The momentum and the energy that he brings on this track, while not going too cliche, too hard, is perfect on this song. So Mad Dog, my favorite song. Jonesboro was also pretty good. Nice little, you know, kind of reflective mode on there. Hoodie with B Slimer Got It was alright. Didn't really convince me. And then the outro with Nate Russ on here was also pretty cool about, you know, how that's just how it works in America. They gonna evict you for something that you didn't even do, kind of referencing the whole thing that's been going on with the trial of the RICO charge in this case. Especially the production carried on most of these tracks though, so Metro Boomin definitely delivered a really good album here together with Thugger. And we can tell that this was kind of recorded before Thugger went to jail, and then these people filled in the verses, kind of the theory that I had before it dropped, so that did actually come true. I didn't know he had a whole, you know, album material out there, though, that he could just access and let other people finish and then put out. So that's pretty cool. I think Metro Boomin played a big role in finishing this album as well, because he's obviously the executive producer, and he's on a roll. Like, Metro Boomin has been going crazy. He dropped Heroes and Villains. He dropped that soundtrack for the Spider-Man movie, and now he's got that Thugger album. I think the Future collab is coming up. Metro's on a roll right now. Stuff that I said about Drake, where Drake posted on Instagram, "You owe me this time," and then Thugger replied, "You will be paid." I think could reference, and I've seen a lot of people say this as well, that Drake was actually supposed to drop today. Drake was supposed to drop Scary Hours 3 today. And I think, you know, that's kind of the theory we've had for a very long time, because Drake was still supposed to drop before he's going on tour with 21 Savage starting June 29th, I believe. So next Thursday. So that kind of always was in the back of my mind when, you know, thinking about the next couple of Fridays releasing it. I even dropped a video like a week ago about this thing still dropping this Friday. And I think by him saying "you owe me this time, Thugger," and Thugger saying "you will be paid," kind of means that he was supposed to drop, but he kind of, you know, retreated to let Thugger have his day-to-day with business is business, because obviously this was a pretty cool release and a pretty cool rollout with the whole QR codes, with all of that. So I think that we could still see a Drake release. Maybe, but after the tour. That's kind of what I'm thinking right now. All in all, though, this album, it convinced me. It was a really good Young Thug album. Even though some of the tracks are pretty basic, no track on here was like bad. It was all a pretty high standard, and a couple of them just went above that standard. Like Mad Dog, for example, which is by far my favorite track, or even, you know, Money on the Dresser, or With the Racks, or Went Through It. Those tracks definitely were above that baseline that was set pretty high already. So very solid album. You know, if I could give it a number from 0 to 10, which is kind of how you do reviews nowadays, probably would give this, and I mean this in a good way, like a 6 or 7, and that is very high for me. You know, a 10 is like a classic, so a 6 or 7 is pretty good. You know, that's a 5 would be like an okay album, and this is above that. So let me know what you think about this, though. What's your favorite track? What's your worst favorite track? You know, your least favorite track? What feature did you like? What feature didn't you like? Were you disappointed that not all of the features that we got through the QR codes were actually realized on the album? And what would you have done differently? And what do you think Thug's next couple of moves are? All of your thoughts on this, please let me know in the comments down below. If you watched this video to the end and liked it, and you want to stay up to date with all current hip-hop events and releases, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, hit that like button, and go follow my social media, and most importantly, join my Discord in the description. Until the next one, you'll have an incredible day, and you'll take care.